Hello, world. It's me, Dennis, and I am back with my dear friend, Laura Redfern. Hello, Laura.
Hello, Dennis. How are you?
Wonderful. Well, you are birthing a bouncing baby book and workbook, and it's all coming out. So I want to have this as an opportunity to be able to celebrate that and to talk about how peaceful prosperity is on the road and getting out there to bringing sanity and serenity to all of us who have to deal with that amazing thing called money.
Yes, sir. That is exactly what this book and workbook series is for.
So tell me about putting it together. Tell me about bringing this out to the public so that you can, because I know that you've been working this for a long time. You've been doing workshops. You have brought your different pieces of it in order to be able to get people to buy into it, and you coalesced it all into a book and a workbook. So give me some background into where that is, please.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. The book and the whole concept started out as really a love letter to my mother. She is a very bright woman, a strong woman who just brought me up to also be a very independent and strong woman. But she always had a lack of confidence and a real problem when it came to money and finance. She had no self confidence there. And I observed that and thought that was such a shame. So I wanted to build something for women like her that was accessible and friendly, even that made it feel like she could be a part of the conversation when money came up and finance, because it was such a shame to see that she wasn't a part of that. So I built this in a friendly, approachable way. Um, and that's really where it all started. Then a friend of mine in Toastmasters, Tina, had a project where she had to collaborate and create some workshops. And she said, "Hey, would you partner with me and let's try this out?" So it was awesome. We collaborated and did some workshops for women that were more conversational. Tina's original idea was to almost trick people into learning things while they were having fun. So we got really creative and did some very fun activities that, lo and behold, at the end of it, you had a budget or a balance sheet. It was a very different way of coming at the money conversation, and it was very successful. So that was a lot of fun.
You know, one of the things that feel is so powerful about this concept is that because we tend to think of is money being the logical. It is either
Mm.
is or it isn't, and so we deal that from our rational mind. But you have brought that there are so many emotions that are tied up within and intermingled within. And one of the things that I find that is so masterful about what you're doing is that you help to detangle and to detach them so that we can really see, all right, where am I behaving from an emotional, irrational, non-rational place, and where can I get to that place where I can actually have some kind of serenity and prosperity? Can you talk about your awarenesses and your learnings there, please?
Oh, yes, I'd love to. So that didn't start just with me. I've had some wonderful collaborators who have expanded upon that idea that money cannot be divorced from emotion. Old school thinking was that, oh, you got to be rational and completely leave your emotions at the door when you're thinking about numbers and money. But thankfully, psychology is catching up with this now, where no, we cannot be completely rational robots. We are human beings. And not only that, but where I like to take it a step further is, and those emotions can actually be used as a strength in our money behaviors. Harness those, acknowledge them, and use them to push forward instead of pushing against them and thinking there's something that's going to hold you back. That's really powerful motivation I've seen. And I mentioned that wasn't just my idea. I have the wonderful honor of being part of a group it's called the Financial Transitionist Institute, founded by Susan Bradley. And she has been a mentor and even a collaborator with this book and bringing out how emotions are part of the money conversation. She's just brilliant.
When we talk about women in particular, because this has been such a transition that we have, like for your mother and generation
Yes.
before my mother, women took a secondary role. Very often when I would hear when the husband died, the woman goes, I don't even know how to balance a checkbook or whatever, because that
Right.
wasn't part of what we're doing. And now we're going up to where there women are 60% in colleges and in universities. They're getting into research, we're getting into higher, but yet some of those old stories have to be updated. And some of
Mm.
the old stories that we carry in our heads, this institutional thought about what money is about, those are still there. And do you find that even among the professionals today, that some of that is carried with us?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned that because the very first activity in the book and the workshops talks about examining your money stories. It's actually an activity from Barbara Hewson is what she is now. She was Barbara Stanny, and she has a wonderful collection of books. So Barbara Stanny has an activity called Digging Down to the Roots. And we do that first in the Peaceful Prosperity series. That examines exactly what you're talking about, Dennis. Those old money narratives that we might not even know about that are operating in our heads and in our behavior that we don't even acknowledge. Like if we say them and put voice and words to them, we might go, oh my gosh, that's not what I intend at all. But they just operate below the surface. So we bring them up to the surface and take a look at those. And yes, it doesn't matter the age that we're talking about here. I have seen women in their 20s struggle with the similar money stories and narratives as much older women. It's not gone. I think the important thing is to have that awareness, to bring it up, to examine it, and it may or may not serve you. Sometimes they're great stories. Sometimes they're great narratives that you have. So it's not saying that's all bad or that it's very hard or harsh, but just to be aware of that is really powerful and foundational when you're talking about money.
Now, with this set that you're bringing out, could you describe it and tell us what are we going to experience by getting this set? How does it look like, feel like? What is it going to be when I get it in my hands?
Yes. Well, I actually have my two little copies right here too, so you can even see what they look like. So there is a book and there's a workbook. You don't have to get the workbook part to enjoy the book. All the concepts are there. But the workbook came about because we realized, hey, it would be helpful to have some place to journal, to write down maybe in a budget section, for example, actually write down the numbers. So it's an accompanying workbook that will allow you a space to do that. And it's beautifully designed by my friend Jenny Muscatel. So I'm really proud of what she did there. But when you were asking about what to expect, so this is the first book of the series. And this first book is foundational. Um, I don't want to say it's basic, that kind of gives the wrong impression because there's very deep examining of money beliefs and so forth, like we just talked about, but it is foundational. So it talks about money beliefs. We start where most people are familiar and comfortable: budget, income, expenses. Those are covered in really creative ways, Dennis. So this is not a budget book that's just going to tell you to write down and grin and bear it through your numbers. We're very playful. It's fun. And then we do move on to the concept of a balance sheet and unlocking that powerful tool, which it was mind blowing for me when I first started out with finance. And then we end with money conversations, acknowledging that you are not operating by yourself when you are working with your money. You are probably operating with maybe a partner, but definitely other people in your life, and how to maybe bridge those conversations now that you've learned quite a bit more about yourself, how you can then have conversations effectively and without fighting, hopefully. That's where we end this book. And as I said, this is book one. So book two will then get into some more nitty gritty things that people might be looking for: insurance, investments, and so forth. But I wanted to separate the two. This should be something that's easy. You can slip into your bag and read it pleasantly in a park. It was kind of the image that I had in my head. So that it's not heavy, but it is very meaningful and worthwhile.
I love that you are lightening the load. That's it excites me about
Yes.
this because we sit down and so much of what we're taught in school, we don't get the basics. We don't get the
Mm.
basics of what it means to me. We might get the theory, we might get a particular practice, but not how it means, what it means to me and how it relates to me. And that's what I love about your practice, is that it's very much of a personal, this is what I can do, this is what I'm going to be able to do. And then as these things are released, then we're able to get more empowered. We can get much more in the work. So what kind of feedback have you had from so far from people who have gotten a chance to experience it and go through? Because I know that we've talked about this, and it's been really profound.
Yes, it has. I've been so honored to witness really transformational changes in the people who have gone through the workshops, or my beta readers who gave me some feedback on the book. It's just something that we don't think about, as you mentioned, Dennis. So while even people who are very comfortable with money and think, oh yeah, I've got a budget, I'm good, I'm doing fine, examining these money beliefs can just be a real life pivot for some people. um, a lot of the book is storytelling from these wonderful transformations that I've witnessed. So, for example, one woman went through the workshops and learned more about just how money operates and how she felt about it, and realized all of a sudden in the workshop that this was why she didn't trust her husband, was because of the money behavior that she saw with her parents, who did get divorced eventually. It wasn't a very happy situation, but how she observed at a very young age that her father used money to control her mother and was very manipulative. She'd never really thought about that. And when she discovered that through the activities, it was like a light bulb went off, that to her, you could tell it felt so right because she loved her husband and wanted a good relationship, but there was this thing that was just in the way. And it happened to be that the thing was the money narrative that she was playing in her head. So once she discovered that, she could work with it. I don't mean it just goes away, but she could work with it. She could do whatever she needed to do: journal, talk with her husband, maybe build her own confidence, to get out of that narrative, that old narrative that didn't serve her. That was her parents' narrative. That wasn't hers. And I'm happy to say that that was actually several years ago. She's seen me. We're good friends. We've seen each other since. And she said, Laura, you would not believe, I think that saved my marriage. Now I am so much more open in our relationship. It feels so much better. We're so much closer. And we did some other money related activities as well and actually had fun. What? So it can be very transformational, and it's just a beautiful thing.
So what did you learn about yourself now that you're getting ready? Launch date is when?
It is August 14th, which is very special to me, Dennis, because that is my mother's birthday. Circling back, as I said, it was a
Perfect.
love letter to her. So I just put a line in the sand and said, okay, I got to make this happen by the 14th. So coming right up.
So congratulations. All right. So now, what did you learn about yourself during this process of creating? Because this again, I love that you were talking about the conscious and unconscious and subconscious stories that we're carrying along, things that we don't even know about, like we all have them. And that's what I love about in your workbook and working through and doing the writing and really reassessing. These things will rise up and it'll allow us to be healed, because if I can't acknowledge them, I'm not going to be able to get them,
Yes.
to heal them. So
Yes.
that's going to go out. So what did you, as an author and as going, launching this out, what did you learn about yourself during this process, and what's going on inside of you?
Oh, wow. What a great question. I think the first thing that I learned was that I am not alone. I am not completely weird for thinking this way, because in the world of finance and money, I'm a little bit of a unicorn. First off, I'm a woman, and I was looking at the CFP, Certified Financial Planner statistics just the other day, and we're still not quite to a quarter of the population. Women are still about 25, I think it was maybe 23% of CFPs, which surprises me quite a bit. So already I feel a little odd sometimes when I'm at a financial conference. I'm glad to say that's changing. By the way, it's a wonderful time to be in finance.
I always find it so much more useful, Laura, in my life, is that if an author or someone that I am following is also on the road with me,
Mm.
rather than sitting on top of the mountain and saying, "Oh, let me give you all the ways of what you can come up and be like me." But you don't approach it that way. You approach that I'm a fellow traveler on this road. I'm going to give you my experience. I'd love to hear your experience. And you bring, it feels like it's such a collaborative piece,
Yes,
the way that you've designed the work and what you're going to be continuing doing.
absolutely. A very wise friend named Dennis told me early on
Oh,
that
I'd love to. What a nice person. You must
what
introduce me. Go ahead, continue.
I'll have to introduce you to him sometime. You told me, Dennis, to think of the approach as a Sherpa, and I've maintained that throughout the whole writing journey. It's been wonderful because it's that nice middle between being exactly right alongside, or that, as you said, that expert that is not helpful. The Sherpa has been up the mountainside before, knows the pitfalls, knows the dangerous passes, knows the rivers you should cross. That's very much what I feel like then in finances. I have traveled this road. It's been many years, but I've led lots of women up this mountain successfully to where we can see the beautiful vistas at the top. So it's this wonderful collaboration of traveling, but also leading at the same time and holding the hand. That's one of the best compliments I got from one of my beta readers, was that the author, it feels like the author is holding your hand and lightening the load along the way. And that's what I want to do.
Congratulations, Laura. This is a wonderful time, and a wonderful time for you to be sharing. One of the things that I love about you is that you go and you learn, and then you come back and teach others. I think that's really
Yes,
one of the
yes.
things that there was a saying that I carry along with me, that if you educate a man, you educate a human being. But if you educate a woman, she comes back and teaches the community what she's learned. I think that's one of the
Oh, I love
one of
that.
the really important things, and the reason why we need to have both men and women at the table
Absolutely.
in order to be able to have the kind of we have such an interdependent and interconnected society now, and you
Yes.
help us to be able to talk about a subject that is when I was growing up, Laura, you didn't talk about money. I mean, I
Yes.
grew up in an upper middle class and around, and money was something. Oh, you just don't talk about it. You don't.
Polite people don't mention
No,
that.
we don't talk about money. So we're coming through this journey, breaking through that, and peaceful prosperity is such a magnificent way to do it.
I do also love the fact that you brought up both men and women at the table. I wanted to just call that out. Um, Another reason that this book was written was because I do have many wonderful male clients who have come to me privately and said, Laura, please talk to my wife. I am not afraid of finance. I'm fine. And I know that we are fine financially, but she doesn't see it. She doesn't get it. She worries about it. She has a lot of anxiety around it. And I can't seem to reach her and tell her it's okay. Can you please help me? That's so important. I love that these husbands, these brothers, these men in these women's lives are really trying to help, but they just don't have the language. So developing that language for both sides so that we can actually communicate and work together and use each other's strengths, because we men and women are wired differently, and we approach the topic of money differently, just like we approach many things differently. That's okay. We can use that as a strength rather than a point of contention if we only can build some common language. So Peaceful Prosperity strives to do that, to build some language together so that we can talk about it. And then, oh, Dennis, such wonderful things open up to both sides once that begins to happen.
Thank you, Laura Redfern. Thank you so much for your friendship and the collaborations that we have had, and thank you for allowing me to be the first on the tour. I'm very excited about being an early adopter and getting a chance to sing to the rooftops and praise Peaceful Prosperity and you, Laura Redfern.
I
Thank you
appreciate
so
that
much.
so much, Dennis. May I give a shout out to where people could find the book and the workbook?
I would hope so. Would you
Okay.
please? I mean, and that is exactly what I want to hear. Tell me.
Okay, perfect. So you can look on Amazon. It is available on Amazon. It's Peaceful Prosperity. And the first book is called Taking the Fear Out of Finance. So you could look for that. You can also find it on my website, peaceful-prosperity.com. And on that website, there is a special offer that if you purchase the book on Amazon and leave a review, forward me your review, and we will send you a free copy of the workbook, which is just so exciting. It's a beautiful, beautiful workbook. But in these first days where I'm trying to build some reviews and just, get a little more awareness, I so would value that. So anyone who purchases the book and leaves a review, forward me the review. You can send it to Laura, Laura, at peaceful-prosperity.com. And I will send you a free copy of the workbook. So I want this to get out there and for people to benefit from it.
I love that. And if you're watching this right now, please just go right down to the description. In the description will be the links both to the workshop, and it will also have your email address in there. So people will have an easy way to be able to click on it and find it and go for it so that we can all have more peaceful prosperity. Imagine if you were able to watch your great-grandparents tell stories from their lives. What made them laugh? What moved them? How they responded to adversity and triumph? And what impacted their existence? That would be a treasure. Now you can offer that gift to your loved ones. Hello, I'm Dennis Tardon. For more than 45 years, I've been a professional interviewer, documenting the lives and times of hundreds of people. I will guide you or your family member through the important stories of your lives using my unique interviewing skills. I'm now offering my legacy interviews worldwide via Zoom from the comfort of you or your loved one's own home. All you need is a webcam, and I will do the rest. Contact me today to schedule your legacy interview.